A case beyond words, an unfathomable horror. It all began with a Reddit post asking for help, and no one knew their advice would lead to murder. You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I'm Brooke Makenna, but today's case is a very difficult one. It is about a mother who killed her children after a Reddit post had gone viral. This is the case of Brandy Worley and her 2 children. These 2 children did not get to live a life, so I would like to tell their story, the very short version that they got today. So it was 2016 in Indiana, and the Worley family lived at St. Madison Street in Darlington, which was about 40 minutes away from Indianapolis. Now, this was a town with a population of about 900, very, very small, and a perfect place to raise children. So this family consisted of 30-year-old Brandy, 31-year-old Jason, who was her husband, and their 2 children, who were Tyler Daniel Clinton and Charlie Rose Jean. Now, Tyler was born on September 17th, 2009, and was 7 years old. He was starting at the Sugar Creek Elementary School in 1st grade. He was said to absolutely love sports. His favorites were basketball, football, soccer, and baseball. So basically every single sport he could join. But he had a dream career at only 7, and this was to work on computers, which is said to be because of his father, because he worked on computers as well. But his father described him as one of those people, even at 7, who would walk into a room of strangers and walk out with 20 new friends. Now, Charlie had been born on September 26th of 2013, so she was 3 years old, and she was in preschool at the Wilson Early Learning Center. Now, Charlie was only 3, but she had such a big social life. Not only was she going to school, she was going to dance classes, basketball camp, and she loved going to the local library for story time. Her father said that she loved to dress up and especially have her hair braided. Now, Brandy and Jason, their parents, had met back in 2007 and married 2 years later, which was the same year that Tyler was born. Jason was a software engineer, and Brandy, I believe, was a stay-at-home mother. I could not find exactly what she did, but it's believed that she stayed home with the children, and the family was known around the community that was very small and knew everybody to be full of laughter and love. These children, Tyler and Charlie, were happy. They were well adjusted. Everything that would happen next would baffle anyone who heard about it and knew this family. It was not like there were signs. It was not like anybody was ever worried about these children or the couple. They all thought that they were the perfect family. But it had just turned November 17th of 2016 when it was around 4 a.m. when a 911 call was placed from that residence. A beloved wife, mother, and daughter would admit to murder to this dispatcher. This was Brandy, who started to tell the dispatcher that she had stabbed herself and her 2 children. She had also said she had called her mother and told her what had happened, and that her mother, so the children's grandma, was coming over. Now, this dispatcher would later say that they did not believe that this was real. They didn't want to believe that it was real, and they were kind of in shock themselves. But the dispatcher did ask Brandy if she was going to promise not to hurt the first responders that were going to be coming to her house, and she did promise not to. She actually said she was calm, she was tired, she had taken a whole bunch of Benadryl cough medicine, so she was relaxed.
Montgomery County 911, where's your emergency?
203 South Madison Street.
In what town?
Darlington.
Hey, what's going on there?
I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children.
You stabbed yourself and killed your 2 children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's your name?
Brandy Worley.
And where are the children at?
In my daughter's room on the floor.
And what caused you to do this today?
My husband wanted a divorce and wanted to take my kid. I won't let him have my kid.
Okay, and how old are your children?
7 and 3.
Brandy was then asked by this dispatcher about her husband's condition, and it was most likely that the dispatcher needed to see if the husband was still alive or what he had to do with the situation, and Brandy said she didn't know. He was in the basement and she hadn't talked to him.
Where's your husband at?
downstairs somewhere.
Okay, what's his condition?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him.
Okay, what's his name?
Jason.
Okay. And do you have any other weapons with you?
Yeah, no.
And what are you feeling right now? I mean, you're tired? Are you
Yeah, I took a lot of Benadryl.
Okay. And is there anyone else in the residence besides your children and you and your husband?
I called my mom.
You called your mom? What did she say?
She said hang up and call 911 and she'd be here in a second.
Now, this whole time, Brandy was very monotone. She was slurring her words a bit. She seemed very relaxed, as though this was a call to someone she loved and they were just catching up.
Where did you stab yourself at?
In the neck.
Okay. Are you bleeding?
Yeah, there's blood everywhere.
Okay. And where are you at?
In my living room.
Are you armed now with the knife still?
No, it's in my children's room.
Brandy's mother did arrive, and she had come over to the house after her daughter had told her something horrific. She didn't want to believe it either, and so Brandy was still on the phone and ended up handing the phone over to her mother, and the dispatcher asked this grandma to go check on the children. And that is when she began to scream. She was saying, "My babies, I don't know," to all the questions, and she had just found her grandbabies deceased. Now, the police had already been dispatched, and they arrived at this home around 4:30 a.m. Two small, lifeless bodies were on a bed in one of the upstairs bedrooms, and this was actually Charlie's bedroom, so the little girl, but they were covered in blankets. There was a bloody knife found in the bedroom, and no one could believe their eyes, especially when the mother who said that she had done this was laying on the couch in the living room, bleeding from a stab wound in her own neck, but not seeming to be emotional at all. Now, Tyler and Charlie could not be saved, and they were pronounced DOA, or dead on arrival, and the autopsies were then conducted at the Terre Haute Regional Hospital. The cause of death was determined to be stab wounds to their necks multiple times. This was not a quick death, and officers claim that when they were speaking to Brandy about what happened, it was very matter-of-fact, never remorseful.
This morning when I asked Sheriff Mark Castile if Worley showed any kind of remorse, he answered with no, and then went on to say, quote, she, in fact, acted very matter-of-fact.
And in this small town, this whole thing was extremely unusual. They had never dealt with anything like it. Now, the kid's father, Jason Worley, was home at this time when the officers got there, and he talked to investigators as Brandy was taken to the hospital for her own wounds, because investigators were determined to get these children justice, and they wouldn't be able to do that if Brandy succumbed to her wounds. Now, Jason claimed that he was actually asleep in the basement while the kids were asleep upstairs in their own bedrooms, and he had put them to bed, and he was woken up by screams. So he rushed upstairs and he found Brandy and her mother, who was the one screaming uncontrollably, and he realized what she was looking at. While the horror sunk in, Brandy allegedly looked over at Jason and said, "Now you can't take the kids from me." Now, Brandy was having no trouble with her recovery. She was taken to the Indiana University Health Methodist Hospital, and the stab wound wasn't anywhere near fatal, but the paramedics who spoke to her and transported her to the hospital did tell investigators what she had said. They claimed that she had confided in them that she actually wanted to die with her children and didn't want Jason to take her kids. But when the news came out of these murders, no one could believe it was real.
It was always a really good family. I mean, you couldn't ask for better people. Our son's best friend, and she watched our children, and we always got along. I don't see this side of Brandy. She was a great person.
It's definitely not something you hear happening in Darlington.
Brandy had been an active member of the community with her children. No one got a bad feeling about this family. No one ever could have predicted this, especially because that day had been an extremely normal day. So we're talking about the day prior, because this was at 4 a.m. when the 911 call was made. So it was the day prior to that, so the actual 16th. And the children had gone to school. It was a Thursday, and then Charlie after school did have a dance performance, and so the family had gone to watch her. They had returned home together to have dinner, and later on Brandy had taken a trip to Walmart to get some pipe cleaners for Tyler for a school project because they didn't have any. So Brandy was said to go to the nearest Walmart, which was in Crawfordsville, which was about 11 minutes from their home. Now when she got back home, it was almost time for bed. She and Jason played with them for a while before Jason actually ended up doing bedtime with them, and they were sound asleep. And Brandy actually asked Jason if he wanted to sleep on the couch, but he said he would actually prefer going to the basement. Now this leads us to why Jason was sleeping in the basement or on the couch rather than in bed with Brandy. All couples have their fights, and many times the couples in a fight will want to separate at bedtime and someone will be sleeping on the couch, and the Worleys were no different. However, they had taken it to the next level. You see, when Brandy told Jason that he would not take her kids away, that was because investigators had uncovered that the day prior, Jason had filed for divorce. After 9 years together, 7 years married, there were documents that Jason no longer wanted to be with Brandy. And it was a bit more than just falling out of love. You see, the divorce papers were filed due to Jason believing that his wife was cheating on him. Jason would say that they spoke about divorce many times, but he would always stay with her because of the children, because they wanted to give them the best life and worried about how it would affect them. So they would talk it out and they would continue to work through it. However, talking it out wouldn't fix it for Jason when he believed Brandy had cheated. You see, it was said that Jason had started about a few years ago noticing that Brandy was guarding her phone, so he installed some software, which was a part of his job, which is why he knew how to do it, to track her activities and the different things that were occurring on her phone. He then saw romantic texts, and that is when he found out she was allegedly sleeping with the neighbor. He was frustrated and angry about this, but he did not know she was capable of even worse. Now, Jason at this point had allegedly turned to Reddit, which is basically a discussion website. If you have never heard of it, you can talk about many different topics, you can get advice, and he was said to be under the name Jason in Hell. Now, he was thought to be asking for relationship advice. There's a subreddit for this kind of advice, and the title was, "I'm 30 male having a hard time coping with my wife, 29 female having cheated on me with my neighbor, 51 male." Now, I think that this letter, this post is really important to just hear the kind of mindset that both Jason and Brandy were in. So I'm going to read parts of it, but the whole thing will be linked down below if you would like to read it. The post in part said, "It was in May of 2015 that I noticed that she had added a password to her phone. When confronted about it, she told me it was because she was planning my Father's Day present and didn't want me to ruin the surprise. About a week later, she came to me and told me she felt guilty keeping a big secret from me and told me that she was having our neighbor, a contractor, build a home office for me as a present. It struck me as odd, as in our 6 years together, she had never said she felt guilty about anything and always insisted that she never regrets anything in her life. Time goes on, her phone is still password protected, and things don't feel right. I see her using her phone and smiling to herself more and more often. But when I ask her what she's doing, she says nothing and puts her phone away. So one morning I wait for her to get in the shower and I grab her phone before it requires the password. I go through the messages and find that she's texting the neighbor. I am all covered in frosting. You want to lick it off? There were no other messages to the neighbor, but I found out later that was because she had set up her phone to delete messages after a certain amount of time. I felt uncomfortable with it, but I knew she had a perverted sense of humor and I thought she would never do anything to hurt me. Fast forward to July, and at this point the paranoia is driving me nuts, so I tell her that I need to install a new antivirus on her phone. While she had it unlocked for me, I install anti-theft software so I can remotely turn the GPS back on and set up AT&T message backup and restore so I can read all of her text messages from that point on my computer. My wife starts texting him. She's describing sex acts she would like to perform on him, and he is reciprocating. She tells him to check his Snapchat, and at the time I get a Snapchat from her too, and it is her pleasuring herself in the bathroom stall. They keep talking, trying to figure out when they can meet up and have sex. They decide on Monday morning after I go to work. So, in my head, I had already planned to pretend to leave and circle back to catch them. But then they tell each other that they love each other. And it is all I can do not to leap off the couch and knock him out. But I contain myself and continue reading the conversation unfolding in front of me. Then he tells her, "You're my girl now," to which she replies, "Always have been," ending with him writing, "and always will be." I confront my wife and the neighbor. I say, "So you two love each other, huh?" My wife goes in full-blown denial mode, and the neighbor's girlfriend starts smacking him. I ask my wife if she's been texting him. She says no, so I show her the text messages, and she admits to it, but says it was the first time it had gone too far. I ask my wife if she has sent him pictures. She says no, so I show her the picture. She admits to it, but says it was the first time. I ask her if she's having sex with him, and she says no. Because I didn't wait to catch them having sex together, I didn't have evidence to prove her wrong, so that one stayed unresolved. I tell her that I'm leaving her. She tells me that she will make sure I will never see my kids again if I do. She planned on using the fact that I had attempted suicide in high school to prove me unfit to have the children. She continues to say that it was my fault for being so busy with work and stressed out, and that she just wanted someone she could talk to. And then she gives me an ultimatum to decide what I'm going to do, or she will decide for me. That Monday, I go to work and I got a text from her in the middle of a meeting with my bosses stating that she had explained to our kids, but that they were upset and I need to explain it to them also. I get home from work to find my kids crying. She had told them that mommy had to move out because dad was mad at her. When my son wanted to stay with me, she told him that he can't. My son put it together that if mommy has to move out because I'm mad at her and he must move out, then I must have been mad at him too. My daughter was crying because my son was. I don't think she was old enough to understand what was happening. I was at that moment, I realized she was going to drag the kids through hell if I left her. So I swallowed my feelings and I begged her to stay. She agreed, and I insisted that I apologize to our neighbor, since we were still going to need to hang out with them because our sons are good friends. I hate it, but I do it anyway. We still hang out with them from time to time, and they come to our various birthday and holiday parties. But I do anything for my kids, and I behave civil every time. Ever since this incident, the only thing I think about is her and him, and if I did the right thing. My job performance has suffered, and I feel like I haven't gotten sleep in months. I'm afraid that after this much time, and the fact that I begged her back, that to say that I want a divorce now would only make her more vindictive toward my children and I. I just feel like I have put myself so deep in a hole that I can never get back out. I haven't really talked to anyone about this. I didn't want to talk to my mom about it because I felt she would treat my wife differently, and I didn't need the two fighting any more than they already do. I tried talking to one friend about it, but his advice was to put my trust in God. But that was not much solace for me, as I am an atheist, so I have no clue what to do with my feelings or how to move on from this. Now, this post ended up going viral with many commenting towards Jason to divorce his wife. They were saying he needed to get out, that it was better for the children if they did separate because they were just living in an unhappy environment where both of their parents were unhappy. And so after hearing all of this, Jason's next post was talking about that Brandy was not trying to fix anything, that she refused counseling, and that he was basically going to get his kids out, and he was meeting with an attorney the next week. And then he thanked everybody for helping him, and he nor anyone on Reddit had any idea that this would turn out so heartbreaking. Now, a press conference was held due to the outrage against Brandy, and the sheriff said,
"Our detectives are still in the process of interviewing witnesses in this case, and a detective will be attempting to interview Brandy Worley as soon as her medical condition allows. I can't imagine the pain and the grief that these families are experiencing this morning. Please keep these families in your thoughts and prayers. This is extremely unusual. We are not used to dealing with things like this." I checked our calls for service, and I could find no calls at that residence or dealings with either one of them, with the exception of Brandy Worley was involved in a car accident at some point. Not with us. I can't speak to anywhere else at this point.
Now, after the murders, Jason allegedly started posting on Reddit again, and he was saying that he feels that he failed to protect his children, and he wrote about going back to the crime scene after the cleaners had left, and that he felt like he could smell blood in his daughter's room, and he didn't know if it was all in his head or not, but basically that he couldn't stay there anymore and that he was getting out because he just could not be in that environment. He then was speculating that he should have laid on the couch that day instead of in the basement, and he wondered why Brandy had asked him to lay on the couch if he could have died with them, and he was saying this almost as if he would have died with them or if he could have saved them. He said, "A father has one job in this world, to protect his children, and I failed to do that." Now, Jason did set up a GoFundMe at this time to fund the funerals, and this GoFundMe was picked up by popular YouTuber Philip DeFranco, who has a news commentary show, and Philip contacted Jason through Reddit and ended up sharing this GoFundMe to his millions of followers, and this raised an amazing amount of money for the family. Now, a vigil was held at the local church, and 5 days later, the funerals for Charlie and Tyler were held at the Darlington Community Center, of course without their mother, but the rest of the family was there, and there was only said to be standing room because the entire community, that small community, was in that center.
The Worley family just released this statement saying, "We are shocked and saddened by the sudden loss of our beloved Tyler and Charlie. It meant the world to our family, and words cannot describe our feelings of devastation. We are thankful for the outpouring of support from our friends, family, and the community. We will grieve forever the loss of our precious little boy and girl."
Gifts began to be left outside the home for Tyler, Charlie, and Jason, and a member of the community who ran a local hardware shop said that Charlie and Tyler were her youngest customers, that they would come in with her grandma almost every single day to get animal cookies off the shelf. It really showed that this community thought of these children as their own children.
I also had a chance to meet with a woman who lives around the block from Brandy Worley, and she wanted to point out that she helped the children just a couple of days ago make a birthday card for their mom, and here's a copy of that card. I hope you can see it. It says, "Happy birthday, Mommy," from Tyler and Charlie, and inside is this inscription: "You're so special, Mommy. If ever any mommy was loved a whole bunch, you must know who it is. Just bet you do. And if ever any wish was filled with hugs and kisses, this is. And Mommy, you can bet they're all for you. Happy birthday, Tyler and Charlie."
Now, after 11 days of recovery, Brandy was released from the hospital once she was stable enough, but she was not free. She was immediately charged with 2 counts of murder, and she was held in the Montgomery County Jail. Now, the defense attorney, Mark Inman, her lawyer, found that Brandy showed emotion during the first few meetings that they had together. However, after that, she became stoic. She showed nothing. She refused to even talk. Mark said that even he could find no clear-cut reasons why these murders took place. He said that her not showing any emotion, not speaking, was how she was dealing with this because she didn't know why she did it. But she then pled not guilty. The defense appeared to want to deem Brandy insane. But Brandy was given a psychiatric evaluation, and I was unable to find the exact results of this eval, but we will speak about another one that she got in the future and the findings of that. The prosecution was doing a lot of research though, and they found that on Wednesday, November 15th, Brandy did learn of the divorce that her husband wanted, and the next morning, Brandy took the kids and went out with her mother, and then that afternoon they got home and Jason got home from work, and everyone went to see Charlie dance. But when they got home and when Brandy went to Walmart that night, she didn't need pipe cleaners. She had made that up as an excuse to get out of the house, and this wasn't to, catch her breath or to have a break from the family. This was to buy a murder weapon. The prosecutor revealed that Brandy had driven to Walmart to buy a Kabar combat knife that is used by the United States Marine Corps and the United States Navy. She then brought the knife home, knowing what she was going to do that night. She had a plan, and she placed the knife in Tyler's bedroom to hide it. And then the whole family was playing together for a while. Jason put them to bed, he went to bed, and the house was peaceful for a while. Once Jason went downstairs oblivious, Brandy went into Tyler's room, got the knife, woke him up, and asked him if he wanted to have a sleepover in his sister's bedroom. Now, being 7 years old, it was most likely that Tyler was very excited about this, especially because it was still a school night. Tyler was taken to his sister's room with no idea of his mother's horrific plan. And Brandy would confess that she began stabbing Tyler first, and while doing so repeatedly, Charlie actually woke up, heard what was going on, and asked her what was going on, but Brandy had told her to go back to bed. Thankfully, Charlie couldn't see anything in the dark to see what was actually happening to her brother. Once she was done with Tyler, she turned on their 3-year-old daughter, and it appeared to definitely be overkill. Now, prosecutor, who was Joe Busher, he said that Brandy was more adept to kill her small sleeping children than to kill herself. But before the actual trial, Brandy had changed her plea to guilty. And the court actually asked Jason what he would like to see as a sentence, and he said that all he cares is to never see her again, out of sight and out of mind. Now, Brandy was asked straight up, what was your motive? Tell us what occurred, but Brandy refused to speak. The court took this as her having no remorse. She didn't apologize, she didn't cry, she didn't explain, not that this could be explained. Judge Harry Samias sentenced Brandy to 55 years for Tyler's murder and 65 years for Charlie's, 120 years to run consecutively at the Rockville Correctional Facility. The judge said that everyone wanted an explanation for these senseless murders, and it was extremely unnatural for a parent to kill their own child. But he said sometimes there is no explanation. Darkness is in this world, and it penetrates minds and our hearts. Jason said this whole trial, it was very heart-wrenching to hear Brandy speaking, in all of the evidence, such as the 911 call, and to officers so matter-of-fact while describing the murder of their kids, and that he just wants to move forward from this horror. Brandy has since been transferred to the Indiana Jail for Women, and she had another psych eval, and she was diagnosed with depression and continued to be in an unemotional state while in prison. Jason has since gotten his divorce from her, and he is believed to be remarried with more children at this point. But all of this was simply a selfish act, a manipulation of an entire family, a way of controlling that no one would be happy without her, a belief that her happiness, her control was more important than the life of her own kids, the happiness of her own kids. It was disgusting, vile, and there are no words to describe how angry it makes me. There was really no reason for this. And due to her not wanting to explain it, I think she knows that as well. I definitely don't think that this makes Jason a bad person for putting it out on Reddit. That's the thing, if you don't know about Reddit, there are a lot of people who will anonymously or not anonymously post their business or just to get advice, but it does give us a little more insight into how volatile their relationship really was and how much Jason was really trying to be there for his kids and trying to make it good for them. He focused on them. He sacrificed his own mental health of being with a wife who continued to cheat on him so that his children would be happy. And the moment that he chose happiness, and he was hoping happiness for the entire family, he got that all ripped away. And so I feel horribly for Jason, because you could see just how much he cared for those babies and how he would have done anything. And it breaks my heart that he beats himself up about not sleeping on that couch that day. And I do wonder, in Brandy's mind, was she telling him to sleep on the couch so he would stop her? Was she going to hurt him if he was up there? What was going on in her mind to tell him to sleep on the couch, which would have been next to the children's bedrooms, instead of going to the basement? Or was she just simply saying, you're not sleeping in my bed, go somewhere else? And then he chose the basement, but she didn't care whether it was the couch or not. They were beautiful souls, and they literally did nothing wrong. This was all because Jason was going to leave Brandy because Brandy could not stop cheating on him. And that was that. These children should not have been brought in the middle of it. this is a mother who did not deserve to be a mother, and I'm sure you can all agree. But I know that it's a big topic of conversation on Reddit now because they had watched it all unfold. They had read these posts, they had been involved with, yes, you should get a divorce, you deserve better than that, and Jason really coming to terms with it and finding enough strength to leave. And then all the news came out and people started connecting it, saying, oh my God, is this the same person? Because it happened very close together. That Jason was saying, I'm going to go to an attorney, and then the murder's occurring and people started piecing it together, and then Jason came back on and confirmed it. And it was just very distressing to the people who were involved with that original post. They had nothing to do with it. They weren't to blame here. So please let me know what you think. Was this a mental breakdown of Brandy? There's not even any questions. I just can't bring any questions because it doesn't matter why she did this. It doesn't. She did this and she deserves what she got. So yeah, let me know if you use Reddit, if you've ever seen anything like this, if you saw these posts. Let me know. So incredibly wild. But don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay? Bye.